The Hollow Night. It was Halloween, the one night of the year when the line between the living and the dead thinned, making the air feel heavy with something beyond just autumn chill. In the small town of Hollow's End, this was no ordinary Halloween. It was the 100th anniversary of the mysterious Vanishing Night, when an entire family disappeared from their home without a trace. Legend had it that their spirits haunted the town, seeking revenge, though most residents dismissed the tale as local folklore. Ellie and her friends were typical thrill seekers, always chasing a scare. This year, their idea of fun was to explore the abandoned Hollow Manor, the very place where the Vanishing Night happened a century ago. Though the house was boarded up and decrepit, rumors swirled that at midnight on Halloween, the spirits of the missing family would return. With flashlights in hand and adrenaline running high, Ellie, Jake, Sarah, and Noah crept through the twisted iron gates. The air grew colder as they approached the front door, which was mysteriously ajar. It creaked open as if inviting them in. Inside, dust-coated furniture stood like ghosts of their former selves, and the air smelled of mildew and something faintly metallic, like rust or blood. "This is so creepy," Sarah whispered, but there was an excited glint in her eyes. "Maybe we'll finally solve the mystery of what happened," Jake said, his voice tinged with nervous laughter. They wandered the halls, cracking jokes to shake off the tension, until Noah stopped dead in his tracks, staring at an old grandfather clock in the corner. Guys, it's almost midnight." Ellie glanced at her phone. 11:59. The legend of Hollow Manor echoed in her mind. When the clock strikes 12, the family will return for one night to claim what was stolen from them. "Let's get out of here," she urged, suddenly feeling a creeping dread she couldn't explain. Before they could move, the clock began to chime. 1, 2, 3. The sound was deafening, reverberating through the house like thunder. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted, and their breath became visible in the freezing air. The floor beneath them groaned, and an unnatural wind blew through the house, though the windows were shut tight. Then, the door slammed closed with a violent bang, sealing them inside. Panicking, they rushed back to the entrance, but no matter how hard they pulled, the door wouldn't budge. It was as if the house had become a trap. Ellie's heart pounded in her chest as she turned to see the shadows in the corners of the room, shifting, growing darker, more defined. "Who's there?" Jake called out, his voice shaking. A soft whisper echoed through the hall, too faint to make out, but it carried a malice that made Ellie's skin crawl. The shadows grew taller, taking the shape of figures that resembled a family, a mother, a father, a child. Their faces were pale, their eyes black voids. They stared at the group with an eerie stillness. "They're here," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. One of the figures, the mother, began to glide toward them, her feet never touching the ground. Her face twisted into an expression of unspeakable rage. "You took what was ours." The voice echoed in their minds, a chorus of the dead speaking through her. "Now, you will pay." Without warning, the house seemed to come alive. The walls pulsed and moaned, and the floorboards began to warp. Ellie screamed as she saw hands, rotting, skeletal hands, reaching up through the floor, grasping at her ankles. She kicked them away and scrambled to the staircase, but the others weren't so lucky. Jake was dragged to the ground, his screams muffled as the floor swallowed him whole. Sarah and Noah ran up the stairs with Ellie, but the house wasn't finished with them. The staircase twisted and splintered beneath their feet, sending Noah plummeting into the darkness below. His scream was cut short with a sickening crunch. Ellie and Sarah reached the second floor, panting and terrified. "We have to get out of here!" Sarah sobbed, her voice cracking. Ellie's mind raced. There had to be a way out, a way to break the curse. She remembered the legend. The spirits seek what was stolen from them. What if we return what they want?" Ellie said, clutching Sarah's arm. "But what do they want?" Sarah's voice was frantic, her eyes wide with terror. As if in response, the walls groaned again, and a door at the end of the hallway creaked open. Inside was a dusty old nursery. A single crib stood in the center of the room, and inside the crib, something gleamed in the dim light. With trembling hands, Ellie approached the crib. Inside was a small, tarnished locket. She picked it up, her fingers trembling. Suddenly, she knew. The family had been torn apart, murdered for this simple piece of jewelry, a relic that held the last memory of their love. "We have to give it back," Ellie whispered. But it was too late. The mother's figure appeared in the doorway, her eyes burning with fury. "You cannot escape," she hissed. Ellie clutched the locket and stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, take it. Take it and let us go." For a moment, the mother hesitated. Her expression softened, the rage fading from her eyes. She reached out, her cold, bony fingers brushing the locket. As she took it, the house seemed to sigh, the oppressive weight in the air lifting. But then, with a horrifying smile, the mother leaned in close to Ellie's ear and whispered, "Too late." The ground opened beneath them, and Ellie and Sarah fell into the abyss, their screams swallowed by the darkness. When the townspeople found Hollow Manor the next morning, there was no sign of Ellie, Sarah, or the others. The only thing left was a small tarnished locket lying on the doorstep. The Vanishing Night had claimed its victims once again. And this time, it wouldn't be the last.